Hello guys, this is DJ Studios and welcome to a review, and today I'm going to be reviewing a Doctor Who episode, a classic Doctor Who episode from the Jon Pertwee era, in fact the first episode to feature Jon Pertwee, and I'll be talking about this episode in quite some detail. I think that with the classic stories it's very difficult not to spoil anything when you're just speaking about it, because especially with an episode like this with 4 parts, there's a lot of setup with everything in the middle. It's the end that becomes the thing that you talk about, for me, or any sort of classic scenes, or well, I would class them as classic scenes, but they're probably not. But you know, if you can kind of get the gist of classic scene, I'd be talking about, there's an episode, in this episode for example, the shots of the Autons breaking out of shop windows and things like that, and I will be, discussing that kind of stuff. But this episode is called Spearhead from Space. This is a very odd title. It's by Robert Holmes, and it came out on the early January, so 3rd to 24th of January 1970. It was a new series, a new Doctor, and Doctor Who was at a bit of a peak of, it has to have a good series this year, because if it doesn't, it ain't getting another one. So this series was limited to 25 episodes, 4 of which being used for this, 7 of which being used for the Silurians, 7 other were used for the Ambassadors of Death, and then 7 more for Inferno. I just watched Inferno. Why have I forgotten its title already? But anyway, so this is Series 7, and let's talk about the episode. So this episode features a new Doctor, as I've said, and there's this brilliant bit at the beginning when nobody really knows who this Doctor is, who this guy is. He is now stuck on Earth pretty much, and he has to spend the entire series on Earth, and he can't really leave for the time being, and well, that's to do with budget, really. But I'll get onto budget in a minute. But the Doctor has to deal with the regeneration in this episode, develop an actual character for his Doctor in an actual version. Has to develop a companion. Has to develop Liz Shaw, who is probably the least known, least famous, least popular companion, probably except from Adric. I don't know, you may like Adric, but she has. I quite like her as a companion, mostly because this was probably the first episode of Doctor Who that I properly enjoyed of the classic series. Earthshock was actually one that I watched before. Why didn't I say Earthshock? I don't care. But this episode does have the unit coming in, and Unit being featured mostly into this episode because Unit takes a massive part into the Jon Pertwee years of Doctor Who, and this episode has everything that the Jon Pertwee years are famous for. It has Unit, companions, monster invasion type stuff. I don't remember if Jon Pertwee actually hits anyone with his karate moves, but he does that a lot in his series. And this episode, as I said, is only 4 parts, but it's a very, very good and detailed episode in the way that the first episode, I will say, really sets up this Doctor. The Doctor spends the episode pretty much just in this hospital, until you get this amazing moment right at the end, or coming towards the end, when he escapes on a wheelchair. He's pushing down the road, which has really stuck in my mind so much that, because I would have seen this when I was a little child. I'm not that old, but I would have seen it when, I think they were on horror for a while, these kind of episodes, and I think BBC showed them very occasionally, but this episode was basically shown. I just remember him on the wheelchair escaping. It really sticks into your mind that that one little scene. So there's these balls that have plastic, and there's a ball that is like basically space plastic, and it is thrown across space, and it lands in Earth, causing these factory that makes dolls to then make autons, which are plastic people with really off eyes, which really brings up my next point, which is the budget. The budget has really slacked on this episode, and I think it really slacked across this entire series. Doctor Who didn't have any faith in Doctor Who, so they thought, we'll give it a smaller budget to make less episodes. We'll give it a hugely smaller budget, so the eye holes of the autons are slightly lower, so they can't really see out of it. And I should really get on to the last little bit of the episode of the review, because I'm running out of time on my camera. But the final sort of sequence is the final episode. So I feel like this final episode actually has some decent action scene in it, because previously in Doctor Who, it generally means that the Doctor does something weird and then the episode ends. But now, brilliantly, they actually did something, good, worthwhile on this. The unit is shooting down the autons, and the autons are shooting back, and then you see the Doctor with a weird tentacle thing round him. Oh, and then the episode declines in quality. That tentacle thing is weird. I don't understand that. Maybe I haven't looked into it good enough, but I really don't understand that little thing. Right, I really do enjoy this episode. I think this episode is brilliant. It is, reason why I have it on DVD. What I want to do with these reviews is when I talk about each episode, I will decide whether I want to get that episode on DVD or not. And well, I've already have. So thank you guys for watching. This has been Dear Odysseus. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Actually, getting it on DVD, it don't make sense. But thank you guys for watching. This has been Dear Odysseus. Goodbye.